I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, this is going to be an important two-part blog here. Part one today, part two I'll do next Tuesday. I've been working on this for about 6 months now, making my notes, talking to various people like my dad, long-time, old-timer realtors that have been in this business, some developers. I work, as you guys know, with hundreds and hundreds of investor clients. I've got probably several hundred investors close to it, downtown Vancouver, Mount Pleasant, Kitsilano, out in Richmond. A lot of my clients were long-time investors 10, 15, 20 years before I met them and became their realtor. They had already owned investment properties for 10, 15, 20 years prior to me selling them their first unit. So I think I've got a pretty good beat on this. One of the things too is, as you guys know, I'm one of the few people I think that can come at this from and really dissect all the things that are at play here. I want to talk about where I see Vancouver condo prices going, but more importantly, I want to talk a little bit about development downtown, building rental units, the current state of the tenancy situation, the vacancy rates, and how rents have skyrocketed. And then, of course, I've got to hate to talk about it, but a lot of this has to do with government intervention and the mistakes, the horrible mistakes they've been making, the NDP has, over the last 4 or 5 years. And again, you guys know I'm not a fan of the NDP. I'm not a fan of any government, I should tell you guys. You always know that. All governments are inept. They're not your friends. Stay away from them. Focus on yourself, getting better, and don't rely on the government for anything. But left-leaning governments are especially inept, and they've made some terrible, terrible mistakes here that I'm going to go through that's going to have a huge impact on the long-term value of Vancouver condos. It's going to have a huge impact on first-time buyers, and it's going to have a huge impact on renters if you're currently renting. And your time you are on borrowed time right now. So let's kick it off here. And one of the reasons I come at it a different perspective is because I've got all the angles covered. I've been in real estate for over 3 decades now. My father's been in real estate for 5 decades. I've been a landlord coming up to 30 years right now. I also buy and sell real estate, as you guys know, and invest and work with a lot of investor clients. So I can kind of unravel all the moving parts here that you'll never see in the media. I'm going to talk next week about some stories in the media about tenants, of course, getting evicted. The owner's going to sell the unit, and now they're looking at $1,000 a month rent increase if they can even find anything. I've been warning tenants for a long time now, you're on borrowed time. But they never dig in, the media never digs into the real reasons for this, ever. They never talk about the elephant in the room. Why are renting prices going up so much? Why have condo prices gone up so much? So I'm going to unravel a lot of that for you in this blog and in the next one next Tuesday here. So stay tuned. So first thing I want to talk about here, let's talk about the current status, because there's some interesting things going on with downtown development. So as you guys know, I own properties in the West End, Yaletown, Crosstown, Olympic Village. So my mailbox is stuffed with these notice of rezoning applications. I get these every month. I get some because I get them for the neighborhood I currently live in, which is the West End, but I also get them for my other properties, Crosstown, whenever there's a development or a rezone or a change of plan. I get them for that. I get them for Olympic Village, Mount Pleasant. I get them for Richmond, and I get them for central downtown here. These are in my mailbox all the time. I've done blogs on this. The West End development program that they introduced, about 3 or 4 years ago. They want to build more density, not only just downtown, but especially in the West End. West End, as I've said before, is the absolute jewel of the downtown. It's really the only true residential neighborhood in Vancouver. You know, beautifully quiet, tree-lined streets. It's a true residential neighborhood. The thing is that there are very little condo or stratified units for sale in the West End. A lot of it is apartment rentals, purposely built rentals that were built in the 50s and 60s that are falling apart now. Think 3, 4, 5-story wood frame. There's a lot of co-op, and then there's some leasehold land thrown in there. Not a lot of new condos, a few here and there, and some older strata, but for the most part it's made up of rental stock. So the city of Vancouver wants to restart, increasing the density, of course. We've got 30, 40,000 new arrivals coming into the city every year, and vacancy is at near zero. Let's start building more housing, rental housing. Well, I've been following this pretty closely. Starting about 3 years ago, my mailbox was flooded with these things. There was 3 large towers going up, stratified luxury condo towers on Harwood, mid-block Harwood, just east of Thurlow. One on the north side and south side of Harwood at Thurlow. Another condo building going up at Thurlow and Burnaby. There was probably 15 of these rezone permit things. These were going to be 30, 35, 38 story stratified condos. Now, most of these, as I've said to you guys before, were going to be luxury or ultra luxury units, depending on the finishings of the building. But let's just call it 1,500 a square foot starting. That would be a low floor in the alley, up to, well over $2,000 a square foot for these units. I've done lots of blogs on the absorption rate, how, the market can only absorb so many of these $2 million, 1,000 square foot units. It's a trickle in supply here. Well, the interesting that started to happen here, everything went quiet. They had the development boards up. If you go down places like Alberni Street and other parts of the West End, these development boards were up on the lots. They had evacuated, in a lot of cases, these old dilapidated wood frame rentals and had the development boards up, and they were going to be 200, 250 stratified condo, and then a lot of them would have a rental component, maybe 50 rental units, because they have to replace what they're tearing down, and some of them even had a below market rental allotment in some of these buildings as well. So listen, I've blogged about this before. Everything has gone quiet for the last 3-4 years. Nothing has happened. These development boards have been kicked over multiple times, vandalized, nothing happened. Part of it was COVID, everything got shut down. Now the interesting thing is I'm getting flooded with all these again now. What's happened is they are no longer building condo anymore. They're not going to be strata. All of these buildings now have converted to 100% rental. Market rental with some subsidized rental as well. So here's one right here. I just got 1055 Harwood Street, prime street, quiet tree-lined street. I live not too far from here. I can tell you that anything above the 15th floor facing south or west is going to be incredible. The views, unobstructed water, the best views you can have of English Bay, warm afternoon sun. I can tell you that I've been looking at units just east of the Burrard Street Bridge, newer luxury buildings with that view. A 2-bed, 2 and den, let's call it 1,400 square feet, you're looking at $3 million for that unit. For a 1,100 square foot 2-bed, you're looking at 2.5. That's what the value of these units, and these ones on Harwood are even better. You're west of the Burrard Street Bridge. So talk about incredible luxury building. These are going to be, again, the views are going to be spectacular. But this was going to be condo. It was going to be something like 180 stratified condo. It's now been changed to 269 secured rental, market rental, and then 52 units below market rental. I don't know how someone gets a below market rental. Maybe someone can comment here. I'm all for giving those below market rentals to first responders, ambulance drivers, paramedics, nurses, young doctors, firemen, police. I hope that's where those 52 below market rentals are going, because that's where they should be. Maybe someone can tell me, because those are going to be incredible. You're in the absolute best neighborhood in downtown Vancouver on Harwood Street here. And anything above 15 stories is going to be incredible views if you've got southwest exposure. But this has gone on now. I've gotten about 7 of these. All these buildings that were going to be stratified are now going to be rental only. So let's just unveil this for a minute. Listen. I'm all for providing more rental stock. We need to, because I've done lots of blogs here. The mom and pop landlord that provides pretty much the majority of the quality rental stock in downtown Vancouver, those numbers have been going down. Watch my earlier blogs and I'll talk about this more next week. So the net a number of rental units available has been decreasing. The net amount. Sure, there's always new investors coming in there and renting units out. I sell them all the time. But the net has been going down. You add in 30,000 or 40,000 new arrivals coming into the city moving forward here. This is why our rental rates have spiked. It's a simple supply and demand. Rental rates go up when the demand outstrips supply. Rental rates will go down when the supply outstrips demand. So, This is going to be, so sure, for sure, we want to build more rental housing, but these projects, by the way, folks, are going to be 4, 5, 6, probably 8 to 10 years away by the time you get keys on these rental buildings, but they're at least moving forward with them. So a few things at play here. Yes, it's great. Let's add some more rental stock. Is it going to be enough to meet the supply that's coming in? No, it's not, because we're losing mom and pop investors, and we've got more demand coming up here as immigration continues to grow. But here's my take on this as well. This is typical socialism 101, folks. Remember, these are market rental condos for the most part. So a 525 square foot little one bed, it'll be decent finishings, nothing super luxury. It's not going to be like it was when they were going to be stratified condo. They'll for sure go a few notches below on the finishings. You're not going to have sub-zero fridges and Corian and granite countertops on these. They're going to be fairly basic. But make no bones about it, market rental, a 525 square foot, one bed, no parking, is going to be $2,700 a month. A larger one bed, maybe 650 square feet with a den, will be $3,300 a month. A two bed is probably going to be upwards of $4,000 a month and up. These will be market rental, minus the small percentage that will be below market, and I don't know how you get into one of those. Somebody can tell me. So this reminds me, I've had long conversations with a bunch of people with this. It goes back to that old saying, if you give a man a fish, you can feed him for a day. If you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. So listen, nothing wrong with putting in more rental. But you see, all this does is force more people into market rental, which is going to crush you financially. In other words, the NDP is making it a little easier for you, perhaps. We'll see how the supply and demand goes with immigration and the fact we're losing mom and pop investors here, landlords. But is it really solving the problem? Young people should be buying their home, not renting. And once you get into market rental at $2,700, $2,800, $2,900 for a basic one bed, you're sealing your fate, is what you're doing. Because to try and save another $100,000 after tax when 80% of your income is going to market rent, it's going to be extremely difficult. You're essentially locking yourself in to become a lifetime renter, which is a recipe for disaster financially. Go back and watch all the blogs I've done on Saturday and everything else. So this is going to be interesting. I still don't think these have all been converted to now from condo to rental. Talk about one thing I'll give them. These are the absolute gem locations. It's funny how a lot of these new luxury condos that have been built are in okay locations in central downtown Vancouver, but a lot of them are on busy streets, busy thoroughfares, busy corners, noisy. West of Burrard, which is these ones we're all talking about here, I know of about 8 of them. These are all west of Burrard Street. This is absolute prime. So it's funny how we're putting the rental units in the best absolute gems, and the luxury condos, for some of them, aren't anywhere near the location. But that's for another blog here. But if you're a homeowner here, or if you're saving for your down payment, this is just another reason, another catalyst why you want to be a buyer. Here is probably another, off the top of my head, this was going to be like 220 strata. The one up on Burnaby, the 2 on Thurlow. Let's just call it an even 1,000 condos, stratified condos that are now off the market. I can think of a whole bunch more down over on Alberni. There's another one over here on Pacific that was going to be condo that's been moved to rental now only. We could be talking several thousand units that were slated for the West End as condo that are now going to be rental. So this all comes full circle back to why a blog I did not long ago on why you want to be a buyer. NDP wants to keep you in renting with building more rental here, and it's great short term. But remember, folks, this is not a long-term solution here. They're just feeding you for a day here. You need to learn how to feed yourself for life, and that's becoming a buyer, not a chronic lifetime renter. And next week, I'm going to go into more horror stories about these lifetime renters and how they're getting destroyed. It's nuts. Borrowed time, and now they wonder what's all gone wrong. You've been warned for years. But If you're a homeowner or you're a landlord like me, this is just music to your ears. This is less competition. This is why I tell you, get a piece of downtown Vancouver while the getting's good, because the cavalry is not on the way here. They're not building anything in downtown Vancouver from this point on. Nothing other than a few luxury buildings that are under construction right now that are all pre-sold. Very little coming online here that I can see. Maybe someone can tell me coming in the downtown core or Mount Pleasant or Kitts. Nothing. Anything that was going to be coming down line, first off, was not going to be affordable anyways. It was going to be starting at $1,500 a square foot. But now that's all been converted to rental. It's all moving to rental now. So hey, music to my ears. That's why I'm not selling any of my rental properties. I'll talk about it next week about how, yeah, my rents are low on some of them, but I'll go through that. But you guys, this is your wake-up call here. If you're saving for the down payment, you got to get in. You know, you can still buy good quality concrete for under $1,100 a square foot, even for investors. As we speak, it'll be long sold by the time I publish this video. I have a real nice unit in Yaletown, 675 square feet. I've got it listed for $725. Open to offer. I'm going to be looking at offers next week on it. So we're talking under $1,100 a square foot. That unit will rent for $2,700, $2,800 all day right now. So if you're a new investor, these are incredible buying opportunities. You know, back to get $2,800 a month in rent 3 years ago, you would have had to have bought something at about $900. Now for $700, you can get a rent of $2,700, $2,800, $2,900. I told you guys about one I sold at Christmas for $600K, junior one bed that's renting for $2,400. $2,400, you would have had to have bought it at $8, $8.25 to get that kind of rent 2 years ago. This is the reason why people keep asking, with our interest rates have gone ballistic here. They've gone from 1.3 variable to 5.5. Why are condo prices staying so firm? And actually, they're going up now again. The detached market, stay tuned for something on that, is also going up. This is why. There's nothing coming online. There's nothing for sale, and the cavalry is not on the way. And the little bit that was has now been converted to rental, which the NDP loves to do. It'll buy them some votes, but what it's going to do is just keep you in that renter treadmill for life. They're not doing you any favors with that, to be honest. You've got to be a buyer here. And this is why condo prices, especially good quality one beds and two beds, let's say priced under $1 million, are going to continue to go up here. Could you wait until the interest rates start to come down? Watch out. We are going to get an epic rip here in prices. I mean, our prices should be down, depressed with the interest rate hikes we've had here. 8 interest rate hikes in 11 months, unprecedented, yet it hasn't even scathed the condo market. The reason for that is there's nothing for sale and nothing coming down the road. Anyone with a set of binoculars, what's coming on? Nothing. And the little bit that was is turned into rental only now. You got to be a buyer here, folks. If you're renting right now, this is your wake-up call. Next week, I'll give you an even more severe wake-up call if you're a renter right now. NDP is not going to do you any favors. They're just feeding you for a day. You've got to become a buyer and feed yourself for life. Get in the housing market, own your principal residence, and all the benefits that go along with owning your principal residence, all the tax breaks you get. But don't fall for this. Building more rental, yeah, it buys votes. Hey, see what we're going to do here. But these are market rental. And just last thing I'll say, I've talked about this before. Listen, these buildings are going to be okay. But the bottom line is none of these are going to compete with my current rental portfolio. I'm in stratified, high quality stratified condos. And I've said this before, a lot of people can attest to this. These rental buildings, sure, they're finally starting to build some newer buildings with some amenities, and at least they're not like the drafty wood frame stuff that's falling apart in the West End. But remember, these rental-only buildings are a bit of a circus. It's basically like one giant hotel or hostel. You don't know who your neighbors are. People coming and going every month, endless moves throughout the month. It's just a giant churn. They stay for 6 months, stay for a year, move. So you don't know who's in and out of the building. It's ripe for Airbnb. Illegal Airbnbs are running rampant in these rental buildings. If anyone that can attest to this is rented in a rental-only building, the far better way to go is rent a high-quality unit from someone like me, an independent landlord, in a stratified building where it's 50, 60, 70% owner-occupied. You know who your neighbors are, there's no churn or turnover, and the buildings are maintained because they're owner-occupied. So you got to be careful with these. This is just, we need rentals for sure. I'm glad the city's building more rentals. But remember, there's also a reaction to that, which they never talk about. The reaction is going to be, it's going to put more upward pressure on what's currently available as far as condos. And the rentals are at market rent. Once you get into $2,700, $2,800 a month rent, you're not getting out of that. You're in there for life and you've got to get out of it. So they're not really doing you any favors, really. Sure, nothing wrong with renting short term, but you got to be an owner here. And it's not as hard as people think. Still lots of good units under $1,100 a square foot that you can get into. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.